Are you in anorexia recovery and you just are at this point where you're like, do I have anything to look forward to? Anything, any hope that is guaranteed? Well, watch the following video, like or subscribe, and peace. Hello there, my name is Billy Juliana. I'm 49 years old and I have a 40-year history of dealing with anorexia nervosa, and I'm currently following the recovery methods espoused by Tabitha Farrar, Kayla Rose Katecki, and Elisa Orris. And I wanted to touch on something today that may be a stumbling block in anorexia recovery for you. It certainly is for me, and so I wanted to make a video about it. And it in part has to do with why you went into energy deficit in the first place. Now, that is a major question, and I want to address that in other videos because there are so many complexities involved in why I went into energy deficit in the first place, or why I first went on a diet. But all the reasons are there, and I will share a few of them with you. When I was 9 years old, I was just an anxious kid, and I had trouble dealing with my emotions. If I got angry, I didn't know really how to express that, and so I'd get a little depressed. I'd stifle all this stuff down, and I'd look around me and I'd look for models of success out there in the world and on TV and among my peer group and all that. And the common denominator seemed to be dieting and body shaping and fitness and running. Running was a really, really big deal back in 1979. So I thought, okay, I'll go on a diet because that seems to be sort of a key to success. Now, I wasn't overweight. I was only 9 years old and I hadn't even gone through puberty. So I was just this kid, but I decided I'd go on a diet. And there happened to be a diet plan on our fridge at home that I started to follow. And of course, that immediately kicked off all the anorexic presets in my brain that made me think that I was in a famine. And so all of a sudden, I thought that I was in a famine, and so it became ultra important to stave off this terrible threat. And so I spent the next 40 years trying to stave off this threat and just trying to, do all these regimentation and all this restriction in order to keep myself out of this famine. And all the reasons why I originally went into energy deficit were right over here, but they weren't as threatening and as big and ugly as was this famine thing. So I was over here tinkering with all the reasons why I should stay out of a famine and not really dealing with all this stuff. And it became more and more compelling over the years for me to stay over here and worry about the famine stuff and not deal with real world issues because they still seemed so big. And so I find this a bit of a stumbling block as I go through recovery, as I decide that this really isn't very helpful. In fact, this is tiring and exhausting and horrible. And so I want to get rid of it. But as I feed myself and put energy into my body, as I grow into who I really am, I find that these sort of real world issues become kind of big and overwhelming. And it's a bit of a stumbling block for me. So I wanted to say to you, if you are having the same stumbling block, you might be asking yourself, is there anything out there that is guaranteed for my well-being? Because I'm feeling overwhelmed and terribly anxious during the recovery process, and I need a guarantee that everything will be okay. Well, I can guarantee a couple of things to myself. By going through recovery, I will never ever be an abhorrent, monstrous person. Anorexia made me sort of a monstrous, abhorrent person when it was at its worst. And so I can put that aside. I am a human being. So I am going to grow into a human being, who I am. And that has its quirks and it has its assets. And so that is something just to hang my hat on. It's just going to be fine. And the second thing that I know I can guarantee myself is I will always be able to eat whatever I want for the rest of my life. And while the second thing might sound a little bit silly, and yes, I do have a plane going by that is supporting what I'm saying, thank you. While that sounds a little silly, for someone who has been starving herself for 40 years nearly, that is a very, very compelling promise. To be able to eat whatever I want for the rest of my life, day in, day out, without having to compensate with exercise. You gotta be kidding me, really? Yes, I can hang my hat on that hope and that promise as well. So as I go through this, I just need to surrender completely and get rid of all restrictions, keep resting, just let everything else take care of itself, and always hang my hat on the fact that I will never be a monster and I will always be able to eat whatever I want, whenever I want. That's pretty groovy. I like that. So this is just a short video to give you a couple of hopes for the interim. There are going to be a lot of other great things that come down the line, but I can't say what they are. They're probably little mysteries that are out there right now, but they will eventually arrive and emerge for you, as they will for me in our own individual cases. So thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. I'll catch you next time. Until then, take care, everybody, and peace.